in a televised statement that aired early this evening, Sudan time, Sudan coup leader General After Al Burhan announced that the military is withdrawing from the tripartite talks. These are the talks, of course, that were organized by UNITAMS, the UN transition mission that was in Sudan doing God knows what. And that was supposed to be between the military and the civilians, and then ended up just being between the military and the Islamists. Anyway, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Burhan today came on TV to tell us that they will no longer be participating in these talks because they are going to make way for the, quote, civilians to form a government. Yeah. In his words, they're making way for the political and revolutionary forces to form a technocratic government. They, in turn, or on their end, the military is going to form once this government is formed, they're going to make a, quote, supreme military council that will oversee matters of security and defense. This council will be made up of members from the armed forces and the RSF. And whoever, I guess, the members of this council will be agreed upon by this technocratic government that the civilians are supposed to form. He also talked about how the country is going through turmoil and things are so bad right now, as if he is not literally the cause for things being this bad right now. Anyway, it was a short statement, and the general reaction to it has been, bye. That has been the general reaction from the resistance movement. Yeah, okay, we've been through this before. We've, as my dad likes to say, we've seen this movie before. So, you know, we're not buying it. Others have asked very pertinent questions because, as a lot of people have pointed out, this statement was super general. There were no details. There was no, we need clarification. And I'd like to read you the thread written by Hamid Khalafallah on Twitter about the questions that came up to him after listening to this statement. And he says, Burhan basically admitted the failure of Sudan coup, but it's hard to make anything out of it before understanding the details. 1, how will the tripartite operate, and which civilian actors will take part in the talks? So, okay, the military has withdrawn from these talks, and you're leaving just the civilians to talk amongst themselves. Who are these civilians of which you speak? Are they the Islamists that you brought in, that you got out of jail and put in positions of government, and then later on had them join these tripartite talks representing the civilian camp? Who are they, right? And Hamid asked this question, will it include the same Islamists and pro-military actors? Question number 2, what is the role of the Supreme Military Council? A very important question. Will it be under executive government oversight? What will that mean to the security? What will that mean to security sector reform? And will Burhan and Hemeti head this new council too? The devil is in the details. And I couldn't agree more. These questions are very important. Let's go on. More than ever, genuine civilian pro-democracy actors need to come together and have a unified vision for the way forward. Agreed. The military clearly made this announcement, betting on the divisions between the pro-democracy civilian actors. This is a point that so many people have rightly brought up in the aftermath of this statement. Who is he talking about? And also, this is a trap. It's a trap because he knows that the political actors, or the political forces as he calls them, and the resistance movement, the people on the street, are not in agreement. He knows this, right? The political actors have time and again tried to co-opt this resistance movement. They've tried to speak over people. They are trying to secure their status, their position as leaders of this movement, which they were not a part of, and which a lot of people within the movement feel they have let down. So, you know, the military in doing this is not being nice, sure, they're acknowledging that they have failed because duh, they have, but they're also trying to like find a loophole. Oh, you know, a lot of people have made this point of being like, what they're doing right now is just saying, oh, it's the ball is in your court now, civilians. Oh, you handle it. Yeah, we're out of, that's it. We've washed our hands. We're out of this thing. And so when the civilians, if or when the civilians don't agree, then they can come back in and swoop back in, as they did on October 25th, 2021, to say, oh, well, you know, the civilians, they can't agree amongst themselves. They've been bickering and fighting and they're messing everything up. We got to take over and fix things. As, again, we've been through this before. We've watched this movie before. Hamid continues, also, why do you need another military council? Period. Okay? If you genuinely want to relinquish power, what is the purpose? What is the reason? As for its mandate, Burhan cited security and defense and, quote, other relevant responsibilities. Doesn't sound right to me. Also, if he's genuine, why would he state that civilians should come to an agreement through the tripartite mechanism to form a government accordingly? It's none of his business what mechanism civilians use unless he knows the tripartite would have an outcome in his favor. And I heavily agree with that analysis, prediction, whatever you want to call it. Truly, if he wanted to relinquish power, if he agrees that, okay, you know what, the military is no longer going to be involved in politics, all he had to say was that. Why are you dictating how people should come to an agreement or how people should form this government that you are supposedly not going to be a part of? We'll wait. Finally, Hamid's thread ends with, anyway, the positive thing is that the military is submitting to the streets' pressure. And this is, I think this statement has been proof that the 8 months of constant protest, of resistance activities, active, indirect resistance activities against this coup has had obviously an effect. And that is wonderful. Let me go back to my thread of today's recap. So this was basically the discussion surrounding the statement that Burhan, or that was aired today from Al Burhan. About maybe an hour and a half after that statement came out, Sudan coup forces decided to attack both the Ajouda sit-in in Khartoum and the South Omdurman sit-in in Omdurman. It was wild. On the one hand, you're talking about, oh, you know, we're just here for defense. We're here to keep the people safe. We don't want to be involved. We don't want to have power anymore. And literally in the same night, you're attacking protesters. You're trying to disperse these sit-ins. And you're doing it in an obviously strategized, timed manner. Because these two attacks in Khartoum and Omdurman, which are two cities that are quite far from each other, happened maybe 20 minutes apart. So what are we doing? What are we doing? In the end, the Omdurman sit-in was dispersed. They attacked. There was reports that shots were fired as well as tear gas. But the protesters in Omdurman particularly the resistance committees that were managing the South Omdurman sit-in, just made the call that everybody should just retreat. For the safety of everyone involved, for the safety of all the participants of this sit-in, just retreat and leave it to them. We'll come back later and reestablish it if need be. And that has been sort of the agreement across resistance committees who are in charge of these three sit-ins in Khartoum. This has been the statement that they've let out, while these attacks are happening, or while waiting for these attacks to happen, because this has been like on people's mind. They've been expecting that the authorities are going to try to disperse these sit-ins. So it has always been, if they attack, just retreat. Everybody just run for cover, leave it, give them the space. And we can always start a new sit-in somewhere else or in the same spot. It doesn't matter. The sit-ins are a means, not the end. And another attack which happened, so these two attacks happened 20 minutes apart or something like that, and then perhaps sometime later, not a lot of time later, protesters in Burri in Khartoum reported that they were being shot at and they were being tear gassed. And according to the Unified Doctor's Office, Royal Care Hospital, which is in the Burri neighborhood, the vicinity of it was tear gassed, and it affected patients and staff. And among the protesters in Burri, there have been a number of reported injuries, although we don't have details about how many or what kind of injuries there are. But many view these attacks, both the attempt to disperse the Khartoum sit-in, the dispersal of the Durman sit-in, and this attack on Burri, as just further proof of the disingenuousness of Al Burhan and the military, and how useless and worthless and meaning nothingness his statement was. That is your recap for today. The resistance obviously continues. See you tomorrow.